Okay, we're going to start with Unit 9, the effects of distracted driving. We're going to watch this video, and it's a nice little intro to distracted driving. This is put on by AT&T, and it's titled, It Can Wait. Watch it. The last 30 seconds are the best part, but pay attention to who the mother is talking to on the phone. And pay attention to what kind of vehicle they're driving. And this was a public service announcement that AT&T came up with about texting and driving.
31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 44. Crap. Who loses one shoe? No dog today.
Grace, let's do this, baby girl. Say goodbye to the gang.
Elizabeth wants to come too.
Okay, Elizabeth can come, but that's all. Come on.
Sorry, guys.
Pump 7?
Sure. That'll be $36. Rewards card?
No. Hey, you know what? Give me one of those lottery tickets, too. The big one.
Hi, what's up?
Hey, so I think I'm going to skip out early and try and catch a few innings of Danny's game.
Oh, I'm sure you'd love that. Hey, what do you want to eat tonight?
Would you eat at Mazzoni's?
Ugh, don't make me.
All right, that's okay. I'm good with whatever.
Mommy, Elizabeth wants some ice cream.
Well, she's a good girl. Maybe we can get some on the way home.
Oh, Erin called. She left a message with the other broker.
Okay, so now what?
Now we wait.
Oh, well, don't worry, because we are about to become filthy rich anyway.
Finally.
Yeah, lottery's over $200 million. I got a ticket, so I think we're good.
Oh, why didn't I think of that?
Well, that's what you have me for.
¿Quieres ver tu programa ahora?
No, comienza hasta las 2.
Ok, si me necesitas, entonces voy a estar afuera.
Stupid.
Hey, do you want me to pick anything up?
You know what? I'll leave Mazzoni's. I don't care.
Hey, all right.
Love you.
Love you.
Mommy, I forgot my crystal bracelet.
That's okay, sweetheart. It'll still be there when we get back. Everyone loves the picture I posted of you.
AT&T reminds you, it can wait.
So if you noticed in that video from AT&T, the mother was actually talking to her husband. And what's so scary about texting and driving is that you can do everything right, but make a mistake, a small mistake, in a matter of 3 to 4 seconds, and it can ruin your life. So texting, it can wait. Distracted driving, inattention. Distracted driving is physical or mental activity unrelated to the task of driving. Inattention is the mental or emotional distraction unrelated to the task of driving. Effects of distracted driving: slowed perception. Your perception slows down and it affects with your ability to evaluate and to execute to potential risk, delayed decision making, and improper action. Nature of the distraction driving crash problem: almost 6,000 deaths and 448,000 injured per year. Teens are most likely to be involved in distracted driving crashes. Almost every state has legislation for distracted driving, and drivers who use handheld devices are more likely to get into a crash. Now, what is Michigan's law? Well, there's two different rules out there. For level 3 license, so myself, your parents, and everybody over 17, we can use the phone to talk on it, but we can't text. Some states like Illinois, you can't have a handheld device. Michigan, it doesn't matter if it's handheld or not. Now for people with level 2 or level 1 license, you're not allowed to use your cell phone at all to even make a phone call. So we can't text, we can call, you guys can't do anything, and it's called Kelsey's Law. Now there are some exceptions to Kelsey's Law. You can use a cell phone if it's built into the car, or for emergency reasons. All right, we're going to watch this video called Distracted Driving. This is a mother's going to tell you her story about her daughter, Margay. So listen closely to how distracted driving changed her.
Margay was 13 years old. She had just started her 8th grade year. She was a fantastic student. She wanted to be a pilot. She loved animals. She loved people. She was just a great all-around kid. Margay, along with 21 other students, were on the bus, on her school bus, on their way home from school when they were stopped at a routine bus stop, and they were rear-ended by a man in a semi-truck traveling at approximately 60 miles an hour, who says that he never saw the school bus. Margay was thrown underneath the seats of the school bus and was not able to get out, and the bus and the truck caught on fire, and Margay was killed in that fire. I feel that a big part of me died with Margay. It's completely changed my outlook on life. My son struggles very hard with it. It's just taking your world full of color, and then all of a sudden everything is gray. I can't even say it's black and white. It's just gray. It's ugly. The year that my daughter was killed, which was 2008, almost 6,000 people were killed that year due to distracted driving crashes. It's not if it's going to happen to you, it's when it's going to happen to you or one of your loved ones. And believe me, you don't want to be in my shoes. No texting, no talking, hands-free, handheld. It just needs to be put down. You need to drive from A to B and let that be that. I ask that people, if they feel the urge to pick up their phone while they're driving their vehicle, they'll think about Margay laying on the bottom of the school bus. Distracted driving kills. Safe.
So in that video, you notice that Margay's mother was definitely affected, and families, you can't recover from a loss of a child from something like that. You can see the pain and her plea to you to not drive distracted and texting. Common distractions among new drivers: talking on a cell phone, obvious. Texting, adjusting the radio or CD, talking to other people, and diverted attention to person, objects, or event outside the vehicle. One quick story where I was distracted driving and almost caused me to not get in an accident, but break a law. I almost missed an important stop sign, was because I was looking for a street. And I was so focused on looking for the street, I wasn't paying attention. Now, I didn't go through the stop sign. I was able to stop in time, but it made me realize that distracted driving just isn't about texting and doing poor choices. It was me trying to find a street down the road, looking, caused me to be a distracted driver. All right, we're going to watch this video here about be sensible, don't drive yourself to distractions.
Getting your driver's license is a big deal. It represents independence, freedom, and responsibility.
Whether you've just passed your driver's test or you've been driving for a while, there are plenty of risks and distractions you'll face while in the driver's seat.
What's up, Suzanne?
How you doing, Lamorne?
Doing all right.
Good. You've learned to make a three-point turn, parallel park, and merge with traffic. You're feeling pretty comfortable behind the wheel, right? Well, before you get too comfortable, we want to remind you that driving is serious and potentially dangerous if you're not careful.
That's right. Now, we don't want to sound morbid, but car crashes are the leading causes of death amongst teens in the United States.
Now, obviously, none of us wants to get into a wreck of any kind, but if we are going to avoid car crashes, we need to know what causes them.
I guess for teen-related car crashes, it'd probably be just reckless driving, speeding, drinking and driving, trying to multitask.
Be looking at another accident.
Distractions in the back seat. I know I've almost hit 3 people trying to change the radio.
Those are some good answers, and a few of you were right on. The biggest cause of teen crashes is distracted driving. Coming up, we're going to share some information that will help you be sensible when faced with driving distractions.
But first, you're going to hear about the real dangers of driving distractions from teens with first-hand experience.
I know that my mom was always very concerned about any sort of driving distractions that I might have, and I unfortunately didn't listen to her that one time and paid the price for it. I was running late, so I was doing my makeup in the car, and I could see through the side of the visor that the light had changed, and I just instinctually just stepped on the gas, and then unfortunately I rear-ended the guy in front of me. I ended up hitting him hard enough that the airbag deployed.
The entire dashboard had to be replaced, and it was really expensive.
I was working a part-time job at a retail store, and I had to pay, the insurance premium that went up and the repair of the airbags. The accident taught me to be a bit more focused, not a bit, a lot more focused. It just goes to show you that just the slightest bit of distraction can really just do a lot of damage.
Suzette's behavior is more common than most of us realize. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimates that 1 in 4 car crashes is caused in part by distracted driving. Here's a few tips for some common distractions. Makeup. Suzette's story says it all. Don't put on makeup while driving. Do your primping before you get behind the wheel, or wait until you get where you're going.
Eating. If you're alone, wait until you get into your destination and then take a few minutes to eat. Now, if you're traveling with someone, take turns driving and eating.
Maps and directions. Passengers can also help you figure out directions or navigate while you drive. If you're alone, plan to figure out the route before you get in the car or read the directions while fully stopped.
And learn from Suzette's mishap. If you're reading directions while stopped at a light, make sure you actually look up at the cars in front of you before stepping on the gas.
Your behavior behind the wheel is a big factor in how well you manage distractions. So, we asked teens, what takes your attention off the road?
I sing along with the music.
Putting on my makeup while driving. Talking on the cell phone is a big thing.
Trying to get something out of the back seat.
Searching for my cell phone when it rings.
I do mess with my radio sometimes. That is bad, but I need my music.
As you've just heard, there are lots of things competing for your attention when you're driving, and music is certainly one of the most common distractions for teens. As we'll see in this next story from Josh, paying more attention to the music than to what's happening on the road can have some serious consequences.
I lead a very busy life. I go to school, I have extracurricular activities, I hang out with my girlfriend and my friends, and balance time there, as well as have a part-time job. I'm always on the go. I feel like I spend half of my life in the car. I love listening to music when I'm driving. I rock out in the car, singing along, up until recently when I actually had an accident because I was not paying attention. I was on my way to work and I was listening to music very loudly, and I pulled up to this four-way stop sign, and because I was so focused on the music, I completely didn't see this woman come barreling through the intersection. The car slammed into me and I did a complete 180. My head slammed into the door frame and my hat and glasses flew out of the window. And I just came out very scared and completely dazed. When the paramedics came, they were very worried about possible head or neck injury or concussion. It was just very frightening. Luckily, I didn't have any serious injuries. The bills, however, were very serious. $2,400 in doctor and ambulance and hospital fees. The car was totaled, unfortunately, and that was really bad because I relied on it for work and to get to rehearsals. It took 9 months to get everything straightened out. I had to rely on my friends and my parents' car for transportation, and it was just a giant headache. All it takes is one split second for something to go wrong, not even with you, but somebody else, and you not to catch it. The biggest thing I've learned was to pay more attention to the road when I'm driving. I listen to music still, but definitely at a lower value. My focus is on the road.
Josh's situation could have been avoided if he was paying more attention.
Take it from Josh, turning up the volume is not the only danger. Changing the radio station or CD while driving is another distraction you want to avoid. If you're alone, decide what radio station you want to listen to before you leave. Bring your favorite CD or make up a playlist before you get in the car.
Traveling with a friend, let them play DJ while you drive. They're getting a free ride. The least they could do is be a good DJ.
Plan ahead, wait, or ask a passenger to help. Simple advice, but not always easy to follow, especially when it comes to this next topic, wireless phones.
I think this is one of the most challenging driving distractions because both the driver's actions and the environment play a role.
You're so right. Teenagers had a lot to say about this topic.
I have a little headpiece and I just have my phone on automatic answer.
I try not to drive and dial at the same time.
I plan ahead when I'm driving. I make my phone calls before I pull off.
You just heard a lot of creative ideas, but there's really only one approach that we recommend to novice drivers. Do not use your cell phone while driving. Using a wireless phone while driving can be a serious distraction to new drivers. This next story from Brandy shows how a seemingly innocent reaction can quickly turn into a life-altering situation.
I think dating is fun because it gives you something to do, companionship, hang out with somebody. The first date I had with Andy was the night I had my accident. And I dropped him off at his house when I was driving home, and I heard my phone beeping. And so I started looking for it, and I could hear it underneath the seat. So I reached down, and next thing I know, I look up and I see some yellow signs, and I plowed through them, and then I hit a tree. When I got out of the car, I got out to look at the damage, but when I looked down, my ankle was twisted the wrong way, and there was blood everywhere. I just passed out right here.
My husband and I awoke to a call, and it was paramedics telling us that Brandy had been in a wreck and she would be airlifted to the Regional Trauma Center. Brandy was unconscious, blood all over her face. They had her leg covered up, so we really didn't know how bad her leg was.
I was really lucky that the doctors didn't have to amputate my leg, and then instead they could take a muscle from my stomach and do a muscle graft onto my leg. I didn't get to see the car till after. I had already gotten out of the hospital a few months later, and when I saw it, it really kind of scared me. It was like, whoa, I was in that. It makes me think about how close I was to being a lot worse off than I am, close to dying or, losing my leg. My life changed a lot after the accident, especially at first. In the first few months, it was miserable. I couldn't do anything. But when the doctor said, no, you can't walk, you can't do it, I kind of almost think I did it just to kind of rebel against what they were telling me to do. The doctors had told me it could be years before I walked even normal. I did a lot of exercises with my physical therapist that made my legs stronger, went through a lot of pain. I was definitely determined to walk. I have been driving again, and it's scary, and I'm always thinking, and I'm always turning down the radio if someone turns it up, and if the cell phone rings, I just yell answer it, or if no one's there, I don't answer it at all.
Yeah, Brandy's driving right now. Can she call you back?
I can't think of anything but what I'm doing anymore. I feel like my experience changed my idea of what driving distractions are and how important they are. When I look down at my leg, it's my motivation. I do not want another one of these. But I would tell other people to just pay attention to what you're doing and don't think that, a few seconds of looking down is that's not a big deal, because it changed everything for me. I could have avoided it all by not reaching for my phone and just waiting till I got home.
Brandy's accident shows why new drivers should steer clear of using cell phones while behind the wheel. It's not worth the risk.
Not only can reaching for the cell phone be a distraction when you're behind the wheel, but some states prohibit the use of cell phones while driving during the graduated licensing period. Get to know the laws in your city and state.
If you're in the driver's seat, never use your phone to take pictures, record video, text message, or watch TV. Leave those activities to the passengers. If you need to make or take a call, wait until your trip is complete and your car is safely stopped.
And as you know from Brandy's story, if you are busy driving, let voicemail or a passenger take the call.
Of course, a cell phone is a great tool to have in an emergency, and it's okay to make a 911 call while driving if it's really an emergency. That leads into our final topic, the environment around you. Things like billboards, fast food signs, people in other cars or on the sidewalk, and even passengers can be distracting. We asked teens to tell us, how have your passengers distracted you while driving?
My brother will come up behind me and poke me.
It's hard for me driving in the car with my friends.
Talking, yelling, laughing, anything can be a distraction.
Just shouting out the window.
Look at that girl.
It's clear that other people can be a big distraction. Some states even limit the number of passengers a new driver can have in their car during their graduated license period.
If that law doesn't apply in your state, you may still want to be cautious about your number of passengers. Limit the number of passengers in your car. If you have 5 or 6 passengers piled into your car, it's like multiplying your distractions.
Avoid emotional conversations while driving. Having an emotional conversation while driving is just plain dangerous.
Children are also potential distractions, so if you have a baby or a toddler with you, make sure they're in a car seat and give them a book or a toy to keep them entertained.
And if you're driving with a pet, use a kennel carrier and make sure it's secure in the car.
Finally, the passenger's behavior is just as important as the driver's behavior. As a passenger, be considerate.
Do you want me to get that for you?
Yeah, if you don't mind, that would be great. Don't distract the driver. Your life could depend on it.
Hello?
Nobody ever thinks they're going to cause an accident and hurt others, but the dangers are real. Now is the time to pay attention or pay the price.
As a driver, it's your responsibility to make good decisions that keep you and everyone around you safe. So before you get behind the wheel, think about these tips and the real experiences from the teens in this video.
Distracted driving is preventable. Stay focused, be responsible, and be sensible.
There are three types of distractions. The first one is physical distractions, distraction that cause the driver to take his or her hands off the wheel. Mental distractions, distractions that take the driver's mind away from the road. See, mine was a mental distraction, the story I told you about trying to find that road. But the problem with cell phones, a lot of times they're both physical and mental. You have your hand off the wheel, plus you're mentally somewhere else. And it's even physical and mental distraction, even a greater risk of crash talking on the cell phone. So potential in-vehicle distractions. I want you to take a couple seconds here to think about some potential in-vehicle distractions. Now, if this was our class, we would make a little game out of this and pick 3 or 4 people, give them 2 minutes, see if they can name all 15. And for the record, no one's has ever named all 15. But here we go. Let's see if you would have thought about these. Cell phones, obviously, we've been talking about that. Texting, yes. Grooming, using your brush, putting makeup on. Those are all things that people do when they drive. Adjusting the volume on your radio. Passenger. Eating or drinking. Adjusting vehicle controls. Using electronics, GPS. Those are kind of our cell phones today, but back in the old days we had like GPS devices. Garmin, I think, was one brand. Believe it or not, reading foreign objects in the car, like trash or insects. High radio volume. Smoking. Pets. Reaching for objects or picking up something that fell. And this last one most people don't get, but when you sneeze. Why? Because you cannot control your eyes. They close. Even though it's for milliseconds, but your eyes are still closed. Cell phones use has increased. The risk of collision increased by up to 400%, or like we saw in the other presentation, 4 times. Drivers are 9% slower when hitting the brakes when needed. Potential dangers of using a cell phone while driving: diverts attention away from the driving task, looking away from the road and using one hand to drive, the ability to make quick decisions, the ability to execute emergency maneuvers. We're going to watch this video clip talking about distracted driving and how some states are issuing tickets and sentencing jail time for people texting while driving.
A new warning tonight from the American justice system that distracted drivers will be treated as criminals. A landmark verdict in Massachusetts today convicted a driver of vehicular homicide, and his crime was blamed on texting while driving. The significance reaches far beyond this one case, and here's ABC's Amy Robach.
Negligent operation.
2 families tearful when the verdict was read today.
Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty. Massachusetts Judge Stephen Albany then imposed the maximum sentence, 2.5 years behind bars, on 18-year-old Aaron DeVoe for texting and driving, causing a head-on collision that killed 55-year-old Daniel Bowley. Today, speaking softly, DeVoe apologized.
I made a mistake, and if I could take that back, I would take it back.
This after the victim's daughter tearfully addressed the court.
I would wake up at night and hear my dad talking to me, and I would get up and go look for him. He wasn't there.
DeVoe will also lose his license for 15 years, a license he only had for 5 months prior to the fatal accident. Phone records show he received 4 text messages in the minutes before the crash, the last 2 at 2:34 and 2:35 p.m. According to prosecutors, the collision occurred at 2:36.
You weren't distracted by the cell phone you were using in texting.
That is my testimony, yes.
But each text takes a driver's eyes off the road for approximately 4.6 seconds. It's like driving an entire football field blindfolded. Look at this bus driver. One glance down at his phone, enough to distract him and cause this crash. 39 states plus the District of Columbia now ban texting while driving.
What kind of precedent does this verdict set?
It makes it clear that prosecutors are going to pursue charges against people who are texting while driving, and it shows that juries are ready, willing, and able to render a guilty verdict.
And we are now seeing state after state increase the criminal penalties for what you do behind the wheel. And Diane, we saw today the judges are more than willing to punish those offenders.
Saying enough is enough. But let's run through again what can get you a criminal penalty. We know about drugs. We know about drinking.
That's right. We've seen cases of drivers convicted of homicide when they get into a fatal crash while using their cell phones. Today's texting verdict obviously takes that a step further, and one state, New Jersey, has specifically made it illegal to drive while drowsy. So you could be charged with homicide if you kill someone while asleep at the wheel.
But one state says now sleepiness and an accident.
Get some coffee and get some rest.
Can put you in jail. Okay, thank you so much.
As we saw in that video, people are going to jail for texting and driving. And pretty much every state in the United States has some type of law about texting while driving. Not all 50 yet, but a majority of them do. There are potential benefits of cell phones in vehicles. I'm sure everyone in this class has their cell phone. It can be used to summon roadside assistance, contact law enforcement or emergency service, or for someone to keep track. Like with my family, we have apps where Life 360, where it tells me how fast they're going and where they're at. So they're very beneficial to monitor young drivers. How texting can impact driving: more riskier than talking on a cell phone. Requires driver to both look at the phone and manipulate the keypad. Remember, we talked about it's both physical and a mental distraction. How texting affects searching. Remember the C method? Search, evaluate, execute. Well, texting can affect your searching. You could miss seeing an important change in your driving environment. Like I told you a story. I wasn't texting, but I was distracted because I was searching for a road. It affects your evaluating. Decision making slows down the ability to make a decision. And the last part of that, it affects your executing. You could fail to execute the drive maneuver you selected in the evaluation step because you're distracted by texting. Other things: audio navigation systems, radio, satellites. There are benefits. You know, every car has a radio in it, for the most part, pretty much standard. And the benefits is access to music, news, travel, and weather. And it helps us stay alert, keeps us entertained in the car, is usually the radio. But there are potential distractions. Adjusting controls, taking the hand off the wheel, and loud volume. Now, a lot of cars now have controls in the steering wheel, so you can keep your hands on the steering wheel. Those are just added safety measures. But the old school way was, if you look at this picture, he's looking at the radio, his hands are off the steering wheel, and that is a distraction. Now, when you take the road test, they're going to tell you to turn the radio on. You will lose a point if you do what this kid's doing and look at the radio to turn it on. They expect you to be able to turn it on without looking at it. I know it sounds crazy, but you'll lose a point if you look at the radio. Vehicle passengers, talking, yelling, throwing objects. These are all distractions. Hanging out of the vehicle, yelling outside the vehicle, unexpectedly adjusting the vehicle controls or audio systems. These can all be distractions for a driver. Now, just like we did in vehicle distractions, let's talk about potential outside the vehicle distractions. Now, there's only 10 of them, and usually if we do this in class, they'll struggle on the inside. This one, they get pretty close to getting all of them. So think about potential outside distractions. Outside traffic, obviously. Crash scenes. When people slow down to look, kind of be nosy, that's referred to as rubbernecking. Their neck is stretching because they're looking. Animal or in or near the roadway. First thing you do when you see deer, you look at it. Everybody does. That's a distraction. Road construction. People, objects in the roadway. You see someone walking, you take a look. You see something laying on the side of the road. You look. Those are all potential outside the vehicle distractions. Other vehicles, hey, look at that car, slug bug. Police, the first thing everybody does when they see a police officer is you look at them. That's just natural, but that is a distraction. Reading billboards, sunlight, sunset, and others would be waved ahead by a driver. If someone tells you to go, you're not paying attention, you trust them. A bicycle or a tire blowout. Preventing distractions before driving. Assess the potential distractions before driving. Develop a plan to reduce, eliminate distractions. Expect distractions to occur. Discuss possible scenarios before driving. So, they want you to develop a plan. Turn off all communication devices. Ask passengers to behave responsibly. Determine travel routes or program GPS before driving. Eat before driving. Do your personal grooming at home. Properly buckle children. Or secure pets in a pet carrier. These are all things you can do to develop a plan to be a safer driver. Addressing distractions while driving. If you're driving, let voicemail or other passengers take the message. Minimize adjustments to the audio or navigation system while driving. Ask passengers to adjust, or maybe at a stoplight. Avoid arguments and stressful or emotional conversations are good advice to being a safe driver. Driver's responsibility while driving. Be aware of potential distractions and minimize chance of occurrence. It's solely responsible for operating the vehicle in a safe manner. Responsibility falls upon the driver, not the distractor. This is a good website, distraction.gov. It's the official U.S. government website for distracted driving. All right, that's the end.